So, got some news about Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh.
They are in the news lately because
Because they're rotten.
They are. Because there's been a report that a PR firm was paying off critics to give positive reviews to bump up their tomato meter average. Because if you get below 60% on the site, you're considered rotten. Which, okay, you and I have talked about Rotten Tomatoes. When I was younger, I did use it as a resource. But as I've gotten older, the more I've realized, why do I care what... Look, I'm not saying a critic's job isn't important. Because I think that it's good to have voices that say, hey, look.
This is crap. Why are you putting this out?
Because you're putting money into this. You're going to see these movies in theaters, or, if it's video games that you're into, you're going to spend $70 on a game. You want to be informed. Like, I'm not saying critics aren't important.
Right.
But I'm saying things like Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes, I don't think... they're not as useful as they sound.
Well, you know how I knew right away. The moment I knew that Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic and all those other whatevers,
aggregator sites. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. The moment I knew that was over was when they started showing up on movie trailers.
Yeah.
Certified fresh.
Yeah.
You know what, dude? I'm over it now.
Like when Black Adam used the fan score because it was so much higher fan score. It was like 96% fan score, but like 40%. It
was like a 12% critic score because it sucked.
But yeah, so yeah, when they started doing that, then it's like, okay. And it's truthfully, there are good critics out there, and again, I do think critics are important to some degree. But I also think there's a lot to be said about just going and experiencing something for yourself. Be informed. Like a lot of the times they're going to be spoiler free. So
generally, most reviews are going to be spoiler free.
If you're watching on YouTube, a lot of them are clearly like you can look at the time and you'll see the title, spoiler free, whatever. And I just think that value of a critic has changed a little bit over time because everything does. Because now we have everybody, ourselves included, every dipshit thinks they can have a podcast, just like us. Everybody thinks...
Yeah, we've been doing it for 6 years or so.
It's because we've given just like everything on the internet, we've been given the power to have a voice.
I can put my music out without much...
There's positives and negatives. Like,
yeah.
And I make the joke about podcasts, but I am so glad that there is a medium like podcasting where, once a week...
I just wish people who are already famous stopped it. Seriously.
Or the people that have been on a show doing these recap podcasts, like... the Office Ladies podcast, or the Real Friends, Fake Doctors, Scrubs podcast. Thanks, celebrities. No, I'm just kidding.
Here's one thing. Look, I don't mind those so much because some of those actors are not Steve Carell.
No.
So they might need some income still.
By the way, I don't fucking care.
I don't either.
Let them have a podcast.
Yeah. Look, I don't care if what's his name? Fuck, the one guy. Shit. Alec Baldwin. He had another podcast like recently about something.
Oh,
it was a limited series
about the Rust movie or whatever.
No, it was something else. It was something complete. It was about a real American whatever. But it was like, what are you doing? You've already mastered it. Stop it. Let somebody else have a fucking try, man.
Wow.
We don't all sound buttery smooth and, like...
Nobody can deliver the sweaty balls like you, okay?
What a handsome man.
Alec? Really?
Did you see him in the 80s?
Beetlejuice?
Damn, dude.
Beetlejuice, he's a smoke show.
No, Malice?
I've not
the
seen
movie he was in? You say I'm playing God? I am God.
So anyway...
dude, that movie... he's fucked up.
What's come out is not... Okay, I want to be very clear about this story. I think some people are going to look at it as all the critics on Rotten Tomatoes are paid off.
Or already knew that.
Right. This is talking about one particular PR firm that did this. Okay, so this PR firm is Bunker 15. So Bunker 15, there was this movie coming out back in 2018. It was... This is, by the way, this is all from a Vulture article. Mm-hmm. I'm going to look this up because I think it's... I want to get the name of the movie right. I have not seen Ophelia. Okay, the movie's name is Ophelia.
I remember that.
Came out in October of 2018.
Right.
or around that time. Didn't get the best review. So it was just below the 60% threshold that was considered rotten by the critics that had seen it. So Bunker 15, the PR firm behind this movie, says, we're going to do something here. So they took a bottom-up approach, because most companies, they'll try and get big-name critics to see this movie in hopes that it will be... It's the same with video games, with like IGN and GameSpot,
Sure.
Yeah. Certain movie critics on YouTube, they want to get their name out there and hope that they'll be successful. But Bunker 15 took the opposite approach. As the Vulture article says, it's a more bottom. We'll have a link to this article too. It's a more bottom-up approach, recruiting obscure, often self-published critics who are nevertheless part of the pool tracked by Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Another break from standard practice. Several critics say Bunker 15 paid them $50. $50, that's it. Or more for each review. These payments are not typically disclosed, and Rotten Tomatoes says it prohibits reviewing based on a financial incentive.
Yeah.
Also, I want to point out, there are times when there's like sponsored content, but anytime I've seen any sort of sponsored content, it's only been video games, but like streaming, and they're with the developers and they're asking them questions and they're playing the game. Movies, I don't know if there's something equivalent to that. But I don't think that is the real practice with movies, where like you're not gonna have a review for Get Out sponsored by Get Out, or
No.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna have something like that. And I don't know, of all the movies, I don't know how I pulled that one out. But all right. So between October 2018 and January 2019, Rotten Tomatoes added 8 reviews to Ophelia's score. 7 more were favorable, and most came from critics who have reviewed at least one other Bunker 15 movie. The writer of a negative review says that Bunker 15 lobbied them to change it. If the critic wanted to give it a barely overall positive, then I do know the editors at Rotten Tomatoes, and it could get switched, a Bunker 15 employee wrote. So they also discovered another negative review of Ophelia from this period that was not counted by Rotten Tomatoes by a writer whose positive reviews of other Bunker 15 films have been recorded by the aggregator. Ophelia climbed the tomato meter to 62%, flipping from rotten to fresh. The next month, the distributor, IFC Films, announced that it had acquired Ophelia for release in the United States. So yeah. Right there is a great example of how the aggregator is weird and the math doesn't always add up.
So can I just ask a question? How is this any fucking different than any artist or writer or movie maker or TikToker? How is this any different than anybody gets famous these days? Hey, we're gonna fucking jog the fucking algorithm. We're gonna bot farm and do all this other shit and pay people off.
We're gonna
so that my fucking movie gets picked up by a major distributor. You know what? Good for you, makers of Ophelia.
They
Seriously.
hustled it,
dude. That's no different than what am I doing? What are we doing? Right?
Yeah. But it's just nuts.
I'm having my album in a week and a half coming out, and it's gonna get reviewed by this Twitter reviewer named it's at Girl at the Rock Shows, and she's made her name by just she goes to a lot of shows and just talks about a lot of like indie bands and stuff. It's really cool for indie bands. And she's got a decent following, and I reached out and, hey, could you review my album? And she's like, yeah, $50. And I didn't say, hey, I want a good one.
Yeah, it's
I'm paying her for her work, which is fair.
Yeah.
And so I gave her the $50 and she's going to review my album. Now, how is that different? The only difference is that I didn't stress.
They're paying for a positive
review.
Right.
That's the only difference.
Because it's an ethical problem.
Sure is it, though?
You shouldn't be able to buy good
No, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
But for $50 and to get from just under 60 to 62%, I don't think it's that big of a fucking deal.
Well, it's also...
If it's indicative of a larger problem, yes.
For journalistic integrity.
Yes. If it's indicative of a larger problem that this is the tip of the iceberg type of thing, then we got issues. But if this is one lone thing that happened...
I think
Rotten Tomatoes needs to do a better job of fixing their shit, and God damn it,
professional reviewers wouldn't do this.
Right. But Rotten Tomatoes needs to figure out how to make sure that doesn't happen again, and then move on. But if it's again, does more investigations need to be done? I don't know, but I really hope.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a problem for integrity, but I do, on some level, understand manipulating the algorithm. But it is an ethical thing,
Again-
and it's really upsetting that it only took $50.
Right, and again,
But
the
again, that
big difference. I didn't say, "Hey, I want a good review."
just
I
want a
said, "I
review.
want you to review it and tell me what you think." You know what
And
I
it
mean?
gets you some notoriety.
Yeah.
good or
She's
bad.
gonna post it on her thing, so I'll get a bunch of views from that. And she's gonna put where to buy the album on her website and on her blog. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not just $50 is actually pretty reasonable for what she's doing.
Well, that's what I mean. Sponsor. I feel like there is an issue though.
And if you're listening, Langan, what's up?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a dicey thing, and
Yeah.
I think I wanted to talk about it because I just think we're at a point now, and this has always been there, but that is, I think it's frustrating because I think a lot of critics, almost every single professional critic would not do something like this, and rightfully has been talking about how it upsets them because it is a serious job
Well,
for
it
them.
makes critics look bad.
This is their profession they're going after, and so I understand the frustration, and this is the problem you run into, and Jake's being a socialist. This is the problem that you run into with capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Because these critics need to make money.
Yeah.
These people need to make money. They got to pay their employees. And to think that you don't make money because of a fucking algorithm. You're not going to make your money. Like, great example, bring it back to video games because I always got to bring it back to that. Fallout, I love the Fallout franchise. I've talked about it multiple times on this show. So Fallout New Vegas was developed by the the original creators, they worked for a parent company that got bought by Bethesda.
Yep.
Bethesda they did Fallout 3, they brought them in, the original creators of the first of the series, brought them in to do a side game, Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
They didn't get bonuses, which, by the way, across the board, a lot of people liked. It was buggy, it had issues, but that's because they rushed it and didn't give them time to make the game that they wanted to make. And again, 13 years later, I was playing it, and I still fell in love with it. Like, the writing's great. It's just the game is ugly, and the engine doesn't run very well.
Yeah.
That got an 84% on Metacritic. They didn't get bonuses because it was in their contract. They had to get an 85%. This is why I have problems with Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes.
Me too.
Because it's ridiculous to not give somebody money for their hard work.
And I would also
Because
argue
of one percentage.
you guys should have had lawyers read those contracts before you fucking signed them. Any lawyer worth their salt would have been like, "Don't sign this.
I don't know.
Get that taken out, or don't sign it." But
I don't know the situation.
For all I know, I mean, they might not have had a choice. If you want to be on this game that we bought from you, which is ours now, if you want to work on your own game,
I don't know if the
you
Metacritic,
have to sign this.
I don't know if the Metacritic thing is actually a clause, but that is the justification Bethesda had, because I think Bethesda.
Well, fuck Bethesda.
Bethesda, Obsidian, which, funny enough, Obsidian.
It's a capitalist corporation that's preying on the weak. Fuck them.
Obsidian was the studio that worked on New Vegas.
Okay.
They were an independent studio at the time, a small independent studio. So just like movies, video games have developers and publishers. Movies have the producers, directors,
and then distributors.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah.
So Bethesda gave them, this deadline, which was like 18 months or something, which is nuts. But they're like making it. They already had the engine. They already had a lot of the assets. They could change it, and make it a different set. All this other shit.
Sure.
Whatever. But to say that, we're not going to give you, since they worked together on this game, Obsidian doesn't own Fallout. Bethesda does.
Right.
So, yeah, I think there was a situation where, like, we own this IP, not you, and we've decided we're not going to pay you more because we don't want to.
Or like
had you have gotten a 90%, maybe we could have considered giving you that money, but we don't want to give you that.
To be really honest, the amount of money they made from it,
again,
fuck you for not giving bonuses.
I don't know if it was a clause,
sure,
but it was a benchmark that they had to hit was 85%.
But fuck that corporation for being dicks to their workers.
Also, what does that say about that team? Because it kind of seems you're trying to play both sides of it. On one hand, you're trying to say like, we believe in you. We think you can. In this deadline, you can make a game that's 85%.
But we also
But at the same time, you're hedging your bets that they don't, so you don't have to pay them.
You know what it's exactly like? Hey, Domino's, we're kind of failing here in the 80s. What if we introduce this 30 minutes or it's free rule? Hey, our pizza still sucks, but if you get it in 30 minutes, it's a free shitty pizza.
And yeah, it's 30 minutes, so it's going to be a sloppy, shitty pizza.
If you don't get it in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was them going, how do we incentivize this? And then they yanked it out from under them like a bunch of dicks.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Bethesda.
So that's kind of my thing. Like,
eat shit. Sorry.
So that's kind of my thing.
Also, Maryland, whatever.
Because they're in Bethesda, Maryland.
Whatever.
That's where they're based.
Oh, hey, whatever.
No, not according.
Oh, I'm East Coast.
No, not according to fucking Heel versus Babyface. They're from California.
California. Oh, yeah, please play that bullshit.
You're boring.
Boring.
Fucking pronouns.
Are we just doing it all ourselves?
Boring!
Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.